Greetings, and welcome back to the YouTube channel, Cril Inspires. I am your host, Cril. I am excited to share insight from my book, Creating a Successful Interview Podcast, a how-to guide on steps that you can take to help develop a successful interview podcast, right? So, and it doesn't just have to be in the form of what we traditionally consider a podcast, but anytime you are conducting interviews in the sense of talking to guests, maybe in a radio show setting, a TV show setting, or of course a podcast setting, I have the experience, the knowledge, and the savvy to be able to guide you on how to do that in the best way possible. So today I want to talk to you about a guide from my book that deals with a very interesting topic that I think is one of those topics that people overlook at times, but it's so simple when you think about it, but we tend to overlook it, right? So this is guide 11 and it's entitled Get Straight to the Point. Right? So why is getting straight to the point so beneficial to you as a podcast host conducting an interview? Well, for one, what it does is it allows your guests to have a clear understanding of the question that you're asking, right? Because if you simplify your question and you set it up in a manner that clearly translates to the guest what you intend for the question, then they'll receive it and they'll yield a way better response than a question that's jumbled up and has too many words and it's easy to miss the point. All right, so that's really important, right? The other thing is that when you get straight to the point with your question, you minimize the time that you spent in the interview, but you also translate that question better to the audience as well. So the question is being translated really good to the guest when you simplify it, but it's also being translated very clearly to the audience when you simplify it too. And when I say simplify, I just mean getting straight to the point. Okay? So there's, as you can see, a number of different benefits by simplifying your question. You save time, you translate the question better to your guest, and you also translate the question better to your audience. All right. The other thing that's really cool about simplifying your question is that it enables you to get a really good response, right? Now, if your question is convoluted or it's confusing, then your guest is going to try to take the time to figure out what you're saying, and he or she may risk answering the question the wrong way, right? And what do I mean by the wrong way? It was not the response that you were intending to get, right? And I call that a pleasing response. Not that whenever you ask a question, you're going to know exactly what the response is going to be, but the pleasing response is a response that you're satisfied with, right? Like a response that it may be a response that you weren't expecting, but based on how your guest responded, you were satisfied because you knew that they understood your question. You understand what I'm saying? So keep that in mind when it comes to composing your questions, right? Let me give you a quick example of where getting straight to the point doesn't work, and then we'll look at how to actually do it where you can get straight to the point, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say you start with a question like, I noticed you said that when you were growing up, you made a lot of friends each year because of the summer camp you regularly attended and the friendly environment that this camp provided. But to this day, you're not friends with any of the kids you had friendships with at that camp. How has your understanding of friendship evolved throughout the years? Now, that's a question I just stated, right? What did you notice apparently about the way in which I stated that question. I spent a long time on that question, right? So that was a very long-winded question. But if you simplify it, you can get the core of that question out to your guest in a way that they understand what you mean or what you intend and give you a good response back, right? So let's look at another way we could use that same question, the core of that question, but let's simplify it, right? And we're going to simplify it by highlighting some key phrases, right? So let's do it again. I learned that when you were growing up, you had a lot of friends, but now that you're older, you're not friends with any of the kids you grew up with. How has your understanding of friendship evolved throughout the years? So you see how much more simplified that question is, right? So the elements are there that are in the first example that I gave you of the question, but it's not dragged out, right? It's not as long, right? And there are key words that I use or key phrases. What are some key phrases? Growing up was one. A lot of friends was one. And not friends was another one, right? So I use those key phrases to come up with a more simplified question that gets straight to the point and the guest walks away understanding the question so he can give me a pleasing response. You get that? So that's just an example of how it looks. I have this example laid out in my book, which is available now on Amazon, and it's also on my direct page or my PayHip page. So I put a link in the description of the two areas where you can catch the video. But I'm gonna be doing a little promotion or something, cool soon, where I'm actually gonna be giving the book away for free for for a limited amount of time. So look forward to that, because I really want you all to be able to get the book, be able to look at it, read it, utilize it, and if you guys have further questions, then you can come back to me and we can talk further. All right. My goal with this book was to help individuals develop their podcast interview strengths. Okay. And I think doing these YouTube videos is helpful because I know not everybody wants to read a book. So being able to do the videos will help those that maybe learn a little bit better via visual or via audio. All right. And I do want to do an audio version of the book as well. But anyway, I thank y'all for tuning in. I hope that this video was somehow beneficial to you in your journey of creating successful interview podcasts. But like I said, if you need additional support, I am available for coaching sessions, and you can book me for a session. I'll put the link in the description of the video. I thank you all for checking out the video, and I wish you much success on your podcast journey. Talk to y'all next time.